and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, folks of all stripes, and distinguished guests, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your favorite Houston sports podcast for die-hard Houston sports fans from a die-hard Houston sports fan. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., writer, actor, improviser, creative multi-hyphenate, and of course, proud Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. I once stood behind Paul Wall in a Kroger. That's right, I'm Kroger famous, so close to being ATB famous. I've spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer here in Los Angeles, and now, well, I'm podcasting. That's right, me, Steve Buscemi, Gavin Newsom, we're all out here podcasting now. We're all podcast bros. That's what happens when you hit 10 years out here in Los Angeles. You start absent-mindedly calling it the 10 instead of I-10, and you start podcasting. Welcome to said podcast. The Space Cadet Sports Podcast was started as a passion project because most media is infuriating as a die-hard long-term fan of the Houston Astros. Here, we aren't doom and gloom casual Houston fans, or worse, the national media haters or avoiders. We love our teams and root them on and try to discuss the ins and outs of them without too much homerism. Keyword here, try. Welcome returning listeners and welcome new listeners to what my brother calls the Pod Broad Pod Ball blog. Hey brother, check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience depending on your interpretation of my pronunciation there. Shout out to my brothers, shout out Arrested Development fans out there. We are recording this transmission here in gloomy Los Angeles. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and co-producer, the Roz to my Frasier. Carla, the dog, is here with me today. Listeners of the podcast know she may get on mic from time to time. She's got the hot takes on this podcast. The long-term listeners know that. Welcome, new listeners. On this episode, we preview the Giants and Astros series that starts later today. The Cougs are in the Final Four. Dylan Brooks ejected. All of the computer imagination could never replace Miyazaki. We check in with the Houston Texans and actually say goodbye to Stephon Diggs today. And we even stop by Dynamo Corner. We have a big episode. We have a video episode here today. If you are listening to this on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, wherever you can find this podcast, thanks for listening. But if you would like the video podcast, it is available for you for free right now on the Substack. If you want to see my face shouting jokes at you, it is there. I want to wish a good day, mates, to all of my listeners, but especially my Australian listeners out there. Long-time listeners of the podcast know that once we started here at the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, we skyrocketed up the charts of Australian baseball podcasts, and we're trying to stay up there. So if you know any Australians, let them know that we have this podcast for them. If you know any other H-Town hustlers, other Houston sports fans, let them know that we are here. We have a packed episode, so let's get to it. Vamos Houstons. Vamos Houston. See, I'm already adding S's where they don't belong. We'll get to that at some other point. Cougs get the A block today on the podcast. The University of Houston Cougars look strong again, this time beating the Tennessee Volunteers 69-50. Nice. The Vols were only able to muster 15 first half points, and the Cougs were able to hold off the Volunteers' attempt at changing the tempo, and they also fought off their tough D and that full court press. The University of Houston Cougars look legit. I love their effort. I love Kelvin Sampson. Their defense is beautiful because of all of the intensity and of the and their effort. It looks impossible to score on the Cougars during some stretches there, at least impossible for college basketball teams. They all move so quick up and down the roster. Everybody has length. The bigs are quick and they don't miss or lose a step in quickness or lateral quickness when they guard the smaller players, and when they switch, that defense looks absolutely incredible. The Cougs will be underdogs for the first time this tourney as they face another number 1 seed and college basketball powerhouse, Duke. Cooper Flagg is the name that even your grandma has heard of this season, and the UH defense will have their work cut out for them. But their top-notch defense, it has to be top-notch in this game, and they have to be able to adjust and give this offense fits at Duke. The real focus, however, will be on the University of Houston Cougars offense. Will it give them enough to win this game? You know, I have completely fallen for this team. I love the Cougars. You know, I make my jokes about my distance from the University of Houston as an organization for sure, but I love the Cougars basketball team. They've been doing so good under Kelvin Sampson's leadership. I make jokes about being the prodigal son of the University of Houston, but that's just their theater program. It has nothing to do with being a fan of them. I'm not a fair weather go Cougs. I believe in this team. I can't wait to see their next game. Moving on, let's get to your Houston Astros and do the game preview that we said we would do here. You know, today it's Monday, March 31st. We're at the end of March. In like a lion, out like a lamb, or the reverse, depending on your situation, how you're doing out there. The Giants, the San Francisco Giants, are 2-1, and your Houston Astros are 2-1 so far on the season. Let's look at the pitching matchups here in today's game later today on Monday, if you're listening to this later. Jordan Hicks will be pitching for the San Francisco Giants. Jordan Hicks is a Houston native, Cypress Creek High School player who's had a bit of up and down his career and is looking to be a bit of an inning eater for the back end of this Giants rotation. He pitched about 100 innings last season, and most of his career, you know, he's been looking to most of his career he's been bouncing kind of between a bullpen role and a starting role. You know, he's been bouncing back and forth between good years and bad years, at least statistically. You know, and he's looking to improve on a bit of a rough statistical year last season. His strength is his ground ball rate, but if the Astros could string some hits together and get some long at bats, they could make Hicks' life and day, I should say, his life difficult. Make his life difficult. We're not trying to say all that. Make his day difficult, Houston Astros. Ronel Blanco will be taking the mound for the Houston Astros, trying to make the same splash as he did last season in his season opener when he had a no-hitter on April Fool's. No fooling. I mean, I remember that game. It was probably one of the most memorable games of last year, and I love Blancura, and I'm hoping for another great season from this pitcher, and it starts with this first game. He's such a gamer. He's up to the challenge here. His changeup is amazing. I'm ready to drop some cambio memes. You know, he's incredible, and I think the only thing that works against him is the humidity in Houston. We're looking to see Ronel Blanco get a good start to his season. Moving on to the pitching matchup in Tuesday's game, April Fool's Day, April 1st. The Giants are facing the Astros in their second game of the series. They will be facing Logan Webb, the Giants ace, who pitched 5 innings on the opening day start. He got 6 hits, 3 earned runs with 5 strikeouts. You know, Webb has a great chase rate. That's one of his strengths here. You know, he is currently the ace of the staff on the Giants. So, you know, I think while we are trying to attack Hicks in a way that is a little bit more aggressive, with Webb, the Houston Astros, I'm looking for them to attack him a little bit more conservatively. Take what Hicks is giving you. Don't chase outside the zone. Don't get excited and get to chasing too many pitches. Truly, this is a game that I hope the Astros are not behind in, because their aggression can sometimes not be the best thing for the Houston Astros in certain circumstances. I think when we can be critical of sometimes their first pitch swinging, or they're really aggressive, it's what makes the Astros the Astros. It's what makes Jose Altuve. I'm not saying they completely change themselves. I'm just saying sometimes you change the strategy slightly here, and I'm looking for that focused switch here in this game, focusing on just swinging at pitches you expect to do damage against, and taking what you're given will be key, not just because Webb can be great, but because our starter is Hayden Wesneski, Houston native from Sam Houston that the Astros got in the Tucker trade. Mr. Wesneski, all three players from the Tucker trade could be on the field at the same time in this game, so heads up for that. Wesneski, we might not be familiar with his game here in Houston, but he isn't, at the same time, while we might not be familiar with his game, he isn't Timothy Chalamet. He isn't Timmy. He's not a complete unknown. So let's look at his stats here. Wes has a career 3.93 ERA with 183 strikeouts, a 1.17 whip in 190 innings pitched. That's not just a small sample size. Those are some good numbers. Those are at least numbers that you'd feel great about as a back of the rotation inning eater type guy. I think if Wesneski is in good form, he could really be impressive to a lot of Houston Astros fans. However, if he's still a little shaky, I could see people already starting to get nervous about this guy and starting to worry about our rotation. Just a reminder, Wesneski is the 5th starter in the rotation. I am not sitting here expecting him to win the Cy Young Award or anything like that. I'm just saying I think he's going to be a good pitcher. I hope he gets off to a good start. But just in case there's some struggles, just in case, the Astros don't want to fall behind in this game, they need to have a very focused, non-chasing attack against Logan Webb in this second game. In the third game, Wednesday, April 2nd, the Astros and Giants finalize the series. Landon Raup, has 1 year experience, and he's pitching for the Giants. I almost said the New York Giants. That I'm struggling here, remembering what sport I'm talking about. Obviously, the San Francisco Giants. This is their 5th starter. While Logan Webb is facing off against our ace, while Logan Webb is facing off against Wesneski, our 5th starter is what I'm trying to say. We will be facing off against their 5th starter with our ace, Framber Valdez. Landon Raup, he has 1 year experience. Baseball Savant likes his ground ball rate. They like his barrel rate and his extension from last season. It says that his off-speed and breaking run value is fantastic. So for that purpose, the Astros might find some success in chasing fastballs in this game, and maybe even run into some home runs and knock the young pitcher out of the game and get the bullpen early if they are able to attack that fastball in this game. Framber Valdez, La Grasa, is going to be our starter, as I mentioned. He had a good but not completely dominant game in the home opener. However, even though we're all saying that, even though, the eye test, Framber was a little shaky at moments, his final stat line is seven innings pitched with 4 hits given up. He gave up 2 walks and got 4 strikeouts. Honestly, though, sign me up for more of that. If that performance is what Framber is going to be giving us most of the season, sign me up. I'll take that, even if that's a little shaky at times. If Framber shuts out a team and gets a quality start every game, sign me up for that. We need more. Maybe we might be right in our expectations from the ace, or really I'm trying to say maybe we're right to have high expectations of our ace on our staff, but we can win games with these kinds of starts. Or at least we should if our offense is rolling. Our offense needs to get going, and the crowd at Daikin has been a little cool, so it's time for us to heat that offense up and to get that crowd going at Daikin Park. While we're talking about, these pitching matchups, I think when it comes to the hitting, I am looking for Joe Espada to keep that bottom third of the lineup a little flexible in this series. We're going to see some people be plugged in and plugged out of positions, I think. And, I think we shouldn't react and say somebody's losing his starting job. He might be playing some matchups a little more. We'll see how that lineup looks, but we're looking more at an AJ Hinch style lineup that will change from day to day, as opposed to a Dusty Baker style lineup where it kind of just remains the same all season. So look for some fluctuation for sure, but where I don't want to see fluctuation is in our offense. I want to see, I'm hoping to see a little bit of return to normal for Christian Walker, who's still dealing with an injury, who didn't have much of a spring. I'm looking for less strikeouts and more hitting with runners in scoring position in general from the heart of the lineup. And I'm looking for them to attack when they need to attack and to sit back when they need to sit back. I'm looking for them working some more walks, getting some home runs, and please, getting some hits with runners in scoring position. After that, the Astros will go to Minnesota on the road with a weird Friday day off in the middle of that series, and then on to our besties in Seattle, who always act so cute when we're in town, like a little brother trying to flex on you when you're home from Thanksgiving. So it's going to be a feisty, salty game in Seattle. We are looking forward to that. With that being said, folks, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Houston Astros, Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel, Space Cadet Sports.
Welcome back from the breaks, folks. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., the host of Space Cadet Sports, and we're going to talk a little bit more basketball. We're going to talk the Houston Rockets. We're going to talk some Texans. We're going to even stop by Dynamo Corner before this podcast wraps up, folks. The Houston Rockets spanked the Phoenix Suns last night in a spicy game, in an overall spicy night for the NBA. There was brawls happening. I haven't seen all of it. I haven't seen all of the aftermath. It is still Monday morning here for me, and I've been super Houston focused for the Astros, for your Rockets, and for your Cougs. I admittedly don't know about that situation too much, but I have seen the videos online. The Rockets game wasn't quite as spicy. The Rockets won 148 to 109. Dillon Brooks was ejected for a scuffle after getting his 15th technical foul of the season. It kind of started with a little shove between him and Durant. Dillon Brooks was being a bit of a pest, not really letting Durant have the ball after the whistle. Durant didn't take too kindly to that. They kind of got into it. Dillon Brooks pestering of Durant worked, but then Brooks got a little bit too into the moment, got too heated, and ended up getting ejected from the game. Brooks is a fiery player. He will do this from time to time. We're kind of looking for him to get it out of his system here in the regular season. Not that we're not going to completely live and die by Dillon Brooks for sure, but we're going to need him in the playoffs. So we need that fieriness. We need him to get people amped up, but we need him to scale it back before he gets ejected from a game. We're looking for that slight adjustment, I got to give a shout out to the ref for the game for going full-blown shade and throwing both shade at the Suns and Dillon Brooks. First at the Suns when he announced that Kevin Durant got a technical, received boos. He gave a big eye roll that any teenager would have been jealous of. And then he acted like he forgot Dillon Brooks' name when he hit him with a double technical and an ejection. Like, oh, right, who? That guy, Dillon Brooks. So shout out to the ref for throwing some solid shade, ref. You're hilarious out there. The Rockets overall did get the win. They played super feisty against the Suns there. while we want Dylan Brooks to be a bit of a pest, a little bit of an annoyance, you don't want this to be the end result. You don't want ejections. You don't want him to be getting a little too chippy there. We're hoping that he could scale back this behavior just a little bit, get in their chest, annoy them a little bit, but don't take the bait and don't get yourself ejected, especially as the Rockets are hoping to get to the playoffs. And folks, they're the number 2 seed in the West. They are looking fantastic, but the next couple of weeks of games is a gauntlet. We'll see how they do, but they're going to the playoffs, and I'm hoping they'll make some noise. Check out some past podcasts for more Rockets comments. We're moving on to the Houston Texans real quick. I said in the previous podcast yesterday, which is where you can find those Rockets comments, that I would say goodbye to Stephon Diggs, and then I didn't say bye to Mr. Diggs. So I just would like to give him an official send-off. I don't want to Matt Damon him, Jimmy Kimmel style here. Stephon Diggs signed with the Patriots in a move that shocked some fans, but to others like me, we've looked at Nick Caserio's moves this offseason, and we point to the fact that we obviously knew this was coming. The Texans are looking to draft some more talent. They got some wide receiver talent. They in free agency. They got some offensive line talent in free agency, but we're not sure if that is the final form of these position groups. We know for sure it isn't the final form of the offensive line group. We're thinking that they might make some moves, either via trade or via draft, to get some more receiving and definitely some more offensive line talent this April, and we'll have to watch to see how the Texans do. But for people that are panicking a bit, I will hit you with a karma thing that the offensive line doesn't have to play today. Nick Caserio obviously wasn't impressed with the offensive line play from the Houston Texans last season. Were you? Do you think would just run that offensive line back? Most of us were furious during the season about the offensive line play, and now that they're shaking it up, now we're all scared that they don't want to have an offensive line. They are making moves. We have to wait to see how those moves pan out, maybe a little later in the summer, before we're saying that they don't know what they're doing. We'll see how this works out. Before we wrap up the podcast, folks, we're going to stop by Dynamo Corner as the Houston Dynamo continue to struggle, and they take a big L against the Portland Timbers, losing 3-1. They have yet to win a match this season, and the game felt uphill early as Portland took an early lead in the 6th minute. Houston Dynamo Franco Escobar scored his first goal of the season with an equalizer in the 12th minute to help me with the misery. That was a Jack McGlynn assist that helped soothe the pain. But the Timbers came back quickly in the 23rd minute and with an Alves Santos goal that had a sequel in the 71st minute with his second goal of the season, putting the game further away. This team is still looking for an identity. Our orange there, our other orange team across the 69, nice freeway. After a great season, personnel subtractions and injuries have not helped the Dynamo find their identity. And the team, is not exactly playing the way that Ben Foster is used to. We'll see how the front office and the coaching adjusts to this team needing to get out of the cellar. We shall see. Folks, it might be a long Dynamo season. It's a good thing we have our Astros, Texans, and Rockets. The Dash had a 0-0 draw against Gotham FC. Sorry, I couldn't read my own notes for a second there. And they will play LA Angel City FC on April 12th. The Dash are currently 1-1 with 4 points on the young season. Maybe if you're struggling following the Dynamo a little bit, you could watch a Dash game here and there to help ease that pain. Folks, with that being said, with me talking about the Houston Dash, that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Thank you for checking out the video podcast. We're hoping to make more video podcasts from time to time. You know, those of you who are on the Substack, you know I try to get as much content out there for you for free. The problem is these video podcasts, they take up a lot of time, they take up a lot of energy. You know, they're a little more time and price consuming to be making all the time, but I'm gonna try to drop a couple video podcasts from time to time. This week we have a lot of content coming at you because it's the first week of baseball season. We might not always have this much content, but we're hoping you check us out and give us a listen. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. Please smash those buttons for me. Please like, rate, review, subscribe, share, bop it, skip it, kick it, hit all of those buttons for me. We are a small podcast and we only go as far as our listenership takes us. We are supported by listeners like you, so please share this with other H-Town hustlers, other Houston fans, other Australians you know out there that would love this podcast. Please check out the Substack while I'm talking about it. That's a good way to support me and the podcast. Listening to this and reading this on the Substack, that's spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you can put your email into that field, get every post, every meme dump, every video podcast and podcast emailed to you directly. Subscribing for free, you get a lot of content from the Substack. I try not to put too much behind the paywall, but we do have a premium. It is a good way to support the podcast. It's a good way to support me. It's a good way to get treats for Carla, our co-producer here. You know, I do try to put some things behind the paywall just to incentivize that premium subscription. It really isn't too much, but it goes a long way to help us keep the lights and cameras on here at the podcast, so please consider that. Reach out on social media at Space Cadet Sports, on spacecadetsports.bsky.social on Blue Sky, where we're trying to be super active. Check that out. We're having a fun time with the community there, or at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram and Threads. You can call in and let us know your take. Maybe your take can even make the podcast if it isn't too crazy or profane. You can call in at speakpipe.com/spacecadetsports. Once again, speakpipe.com/spacecadetsports. Leave me a message. Let me know your take. Let me know how you're feeling about the Astros. If you think the Cougars are making it. If you think the Rockets are going to make a big splash in the playoffs, or if you're feeling a little more hesitant about the Texans than I am, or maybe you're more bullish on the Dynamo than I am. Let me know your takes. Call in and let me know. You know, if you're like me, you need a lot of weird jokes in your life. You can find me personally on social media making weird jokes all the time, making jokes, memes, art, podcasts, and so much more at Paul Salazar JR on all social media platforms, or www.paulsalazarjr.net, because I'm nothing but net when I take my shots. Find my other Substack for all this nonsense if you're nasty. Merch is on the way. Believe it or not, we actually have merch coming on the way for the podcast soon, folks. So stay tuned. We're going to have a big year for the Houston Astros and for the podcast this season. So definitely stay tuned. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos, vamos Houston.